everyone, welcome to your September practice. This month I really wanted to tune in to the experience of feeling at ease in our body, finding safety, finding stillness, finding comfort. So if you've tuned in for the meditation that I also posted, you'll notice some similar themes. But today we're going to explore some really natural, organic movement in our body, so some self-paced self-exploration. We'll move into a little tiny bit of movement to fire everything up and get some blood pumping, and then immediately settle it right down into a yin practice. A yin practice is longer held static postures that allow us to really deepen into the lengthening and the stretching of our skeletal and muscular systems. It's a beautiful practice for cooling and settling the body down and tuning into our breath while being in postures or positions that might be slightly uncomfortable, but you should never feel any pain or pinching. Just pushing ourselves to our edge and settling in. So I'll continue to give those cues. Setting up with your mat, a couple of blocks, and a blanket if that's available. I did try to make this practice really accessible without any propping whatsoever, so if that isn't available to you, no worries at all. Finding a comfortable seat, maybe lifting your hips above your knees. I always try and do this. It really does help me to find even more length through my spine and up through my crown. Settling down the eyes and beginning to tune into our breath. Long, deep inhales in and clearing exhales out our mouth. Exploring this pattern on your own a few more times. Deep inhales through your nose and exhales out your mouth. One last inhale through your nose and an audible exhale out your mouth. Welcome to your practice. Let's explore some shoulder circles up, back, and down. When I say that, up to our ears, slide your shoulders back to along your spine and down your back, dropping your shoulders away from your ears. Exploring that organically as you move through gentle and generous shoulder circles, maybe taking your arms along for the ride, anything that feels good. As I mentioned, this is just a practice of finding exploration organically, naturally, and personally through your body. Begin to explore some movement the opposite direction, looping your shoulders up to your ears, around to the front of your body, and down. Taking your arms along with you. We're really waking up the shoulders. We spend so long just hunched over in our chairs and at our desks and over our phones that finding some exploration in our shoulders to wake them up is a really important part of coming out of just this hunched experience. So on your own, exploring anything that might feel good, a practice of finding what feels good in your body. Maybe you haven't explored any natural, personalized movement yet today or this week or maybe ever, but finding anything in your shoulders that might feel really juicy and really sweet for you today. Don't worry about not looking cool or looking like you know what you're doing. Anything that might feel good. Oh, and settling in. Just noticing how that feels. What's shifted? And on your next inhale, pull the chest to the frame of the shoulders. We'll explore some seated cat-cows. And exhaling, dome your spine. Inhale, shine the heart forward. Exhale, press back, doming the spine. Linking movement to breath here. Just warming up our spine. And once again, finding something that feels organic to you. Maybe it's not a true cat-cow, but something that's a little bit more personalized and organic, what you need today. Moving into some Sufi circles, and this is just rotating our circle, or rotating our torso one direction and then the next, sort of an invitation to invite that cat-cow energy in our chest that we were just exploring into a deeper rotation, exploring one direction and then the next. Closing down the eyes so you can really tune in to what your body is asking for and linking it to your breath. If there are any juicy or tender spots, listening into that. Do you need to back off? Do you need something a little bit deeper? Maybe staying there for a moment. I tend to be tighter in my left side than my right, so finding some length in my left always feels really nice. Just making it yours. And coming back to neutral with a long spine, closing down the eyes once more, and tuning in to your own internal landscape. What's shifted? What's different? What's the same? And on the next inhale, sweep your arms up, finding length through your side body. And on your exhale, drop your right hand to reach toward the right side of your room. With your left hand, lengthen your left side body, keeping your left hip grounded to feel a stretch from your left pinky all the way down to your left hip. Inhaling, arms sweep back up through center. Exhale, dropping the left hand and reaching with your right toward the left side of the room this time. Breathing into your right side body. Inhale, both arms come back through center one time. Together on each side before we move into a more organic self-inquiry of side stretches, linking breath to movement, maybe rotating your torso to shine toward the ceiling. Stretching through both side bodies. invitation to close down the eyes and explore what it feels like in your body to move organically in this way. And on your next inhale, sweep both hands up to the ceiling. And exhale, cactus your arms, shining your heart forward, reaching your chin up to the sky. Gentle heart opener. Inhale, arms come back through center. Exhale, hands come to thighs. Settling down the eyes and noticing once more what this experience is like in your body. Blinking open the eyes and finding a child's pose. Coming through tabletop position and sinking your hips back, taking your knees wide toward the edges of the mat and settling your head down to the mat, releasing your hips to your heels. A few deep rounds of breath here, breathing into the back body, letting your ribs expand in all directions. Pressing up into tabletop, all fours, and exploring just a few cat-cows on all fours this time. We've been here seated, but what's different when we have a little bit more range of motion, a little bit more room for some personalized self-exploration, taking some barrel rolls with your chest, maybe rocking back and forth if that would feel good in your wrists, but really making it your own. This is your practice, your time to come home to your body. I like to tuck my toes and rock back on my heels to get a little stretch through my feet. But just remember, in that same sense of personalized, organic movement, finding a neutral spine and stillness as we arrive on all fours. Tucking your toes and lifting your knees just a few inches above the mat. This begins to turn our core on, wake us up just a little bit, finding a little bit of tipping forward and tipping backwards, some gentle movement, just turning everything on. And on your next exhale, press your hips back into a downward facing dog, pedaling out one foot and then the next to find some length in your hamstrings. Ooh, popping your toes, I guess. Really finding traction through all of your fingertips so you can press your chest back toward your knees, taking a generous bend in your knees. And settling into some stillness for one round of breath. Looking forward between our hands, take some tiny steps forward as you walk toward the top of your mat to meet in meet in a forward fold. That same generous bend in your knees here, grabbing opposite elbows and releasing your head, letting go of anything, any tension that you were holding on to in your head, neck, shoulders, and spine, swaying back and forth. Draining the brain. A generous bend in your knees allows your back to really release down and lengthen without having to hold on to anything too much. On your next inhale, finding a flat back, hands can come to your thighs, your knees, shins, or to the floor. But we're really looking for length along the spine, and through the neck and out through the crown here. Inhale, finds a flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Upward salute. Exhale, cactus your arms. Same as before, we're shining our chest through the frame of our shoulders, broad through the collarbone. Inhale, arms sweep back up. Exhale, swan dive forward, forward fold toward the top of your mat. Inhale, finds a flat back and a halfway lift once more. Exhale, release, planting your hands, stepping one foot and then the next, back, high plank. We'll stay here for just one round of breath. Inhale, and on your exhale, gently lower your knees, and in one flat line, lower all the way down on your chin and chest, releasing your entire body to the mat. Forehead rests on the ground. Palms rest gently below your shoulders, looping your shoulders up to your ears, back and down your back, shining your chest forward as you lift your chest up. Baby Cobra. Exhale, release. Shifting your hips back, finding a child's pose. Allow your torso to drape between your knees. One more breath here. And pressing our torso up, finding all four tabletop once more. Tucking our toes, hips shift up and back. Downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Look forward between, that's not right. That's not what I had planned. Planting through your left foot, sweep your right foot up, three-legged dog. Keeping a generous bend in your left knee here allows for some extra length through your right side. Hamstring curling your right heel to right glute. Noticing a gentle stretch in your right hip. Taking some organic, generous hip circles with your right knee, clockwise and counterclockwise. Releasing any tension that you've been holding on to. And on your inhale, shoot your right heel backward. Bringing your right knee to nose and stepping in between your hands, lowering your left knee here. Arms sweep up. Anjaneyasana, low runner's lunge. Shining your chest forward. Exhale, plant the hands. We'll explore a lizard lunge. So heel toe, your right foot outside of your right hand, crawling forward just a little bit. so that you can find, I feel a stretch both in my inner right thigh and along my left hip. Settling in for a few breaths here. This one always feels extra juicy for me. Probably because we sit all day. Pressing back so that you have some space to heel toe your right foot in between both hands. Tuck your left toe. This is a low lunge here, a runner's lunge. And when you're ready, we're going to slide the left knee behind the right knee and settling into, we call it shoelace pose. Right, don't overthink it, right knee on top of left with an attempt to make both hips level to the ground, rooting down through both sides so that your spine can grow tall. And we'll walk our hands out in front of us any amount. If it's none, that's okay. I sometimes don't get any movement here. But tipping our torso forward while still continuing, we're not rounding our torso, but we're really keeping some length in our torso so that we can find a stretch along the outside of our right hip. A few rounds of breath here. Allow any tension to melt away as you breathe into the sensation of your right outer hip. Three more rounds of breath here. If you find that you do want to continue to walk your hands out, once you find any deepening, any extra opening, that's okay too. And when you're ready, press your torso back up. We're going to unwind by releasing our left foot back to the back edge of our mat, back into runner's lunge. And placing our right foot to meet our left, we'll meet in a high plank. Inhaling once, exhale, either Chaturanga Dandasana, if that is in your practice. It is not in mine these days. So just lowering knees, chest, chin. Once again, hands placed below your shoulders, loop your shoulders up, back, and down, shining your chest forward for a gentle heart opener of your choice. Exhale, release, shift your hips back into child's pose. Coming back up through center, all four tabletop. Shift your hips back, finding down dog. And we'll move through that same series on the other side. This is the last little bit of dynamic movement. So planting through your right, reaching your left foot back, the back edge of your mat to the back wall behind you, bending through your left leg, hamstring curling, heel to glute, opening up through that left hip, taking some hip circles, one direction, and then the next. Lengthening through that left leg once more as you curl your left knee to your nose, creating some space so you can step your left foot in between both hands, lowering your right knee. If this is too much on your knees, feel free to take a blanket underneath your right knee. So you can sweep your arms up, finding Ardha Hanumanasana. Nope, that's not the right Sanskrit. On your exhale, plant both hands in between your left foot, heel toe your left foot toward the outside edge of the mat. Maybe Releasing the blanket, maybe not, choice is yours. Sinking your hips to the ground, exploring lizard pose once more on this side. Again, the sensation that I find is it along the left inner thigh and the right quad and hips. And when you're ready, shifting your hips up to create enough space to heel to that left foot in between both hands, pressing through your hands, tucking your back toe so that you can lift your right knee. And we'll find that shoelace pose on the other side. So bringing your right knee behind your left, rocking back onto your hips. I'll face you so you can see what this looks like from this direction. If you can't find a firm base in your hips, feel free to use a blanket here as well. I oftentimes find that one side is a little bit tighter than the other. So having my hips up off the ground allows for a little extra space along both hips, but here I really am sensing it along my left hip. Finding length in your spine, and a blanket under your hips does allow for that length in your spine so that you can tip your torso forward and gently crawl both hands out if that's in your practice, deepening into the sensation along the left outer hip. And we'll just be here a few moments. Two more breaths. Walking our hands back in toward the torso, lengthening through your spine. Now don't overthink it. Planting your left foot so that your right knee can step back. Low lunge once more, planting your hands, bringing your left foot to meet your right, high plank once more. If a vinyasa would feel good, feel free to take it now. If not, don't. No need to at all. We'll meet in child's pose. And actually, we'll move into the yin portion of our practice today. So as I mentioned at the beginning of our practice together, a yin yoga is an opportunity to really deepen into the stretch. It's a much less dynamic, paced, fluid practice than what you typically think of as a vinyasa practice. And it really allows us to both tune into our breath and deepen and lengthen into some of the stretches. So we'll be in each pose for 2 to 3 minutes probably. I'll be going along with you, so I'm not going to keep any track of time, but allowing the lengthening to happen, I'll be tuning into my own body. So we'll find child's pose first. And unlike child's poses in a more dynamic practice where you're sinking your hips as, maybe as far back as you can, that's not what this is about. So I like to take a blanket under my knees so that my hips are up off my heels a little bit more. If a rolled up blanket, here I can use a rolled up blanket to demonstrate what this might look like. If it would feel good to lay your torso or head along a rolled up blanket or bolster, please feel free to do that as well. That might feel really good. So your head has a spot to rest, and we'll be here for a few minutes. So come to the edge of sensation and then stop. Don't push past it. Just notice the sensation and breathe here.
You shouldn't feel any pain. So if you do feel some pain, back off. Even if your hips are all the way up, well above your heels, that's okay too. This is just about noticing sensation and tuning into your breath. What are you holding on to? What can you invite to let go of? You don't need to do anything. Simply an invitation to be. I invite you to explore 5 or 6 rounds of breath on your own, unrushed, unhurried. And when you're ready, coming back through all fours tabletop, removing any props or blankets, and finding any little wiggles that feel good in your body. One of my favorite parts of yin is that it's not just static, long-held, deep stretches. It's also the wiggles that come afterward. And I love this for really creating or cultivating a sense of ownership and mindfulness and trust in our body. So the next pose that we'll explore together is a butterfly pose. I'll do it facing you, keeping your knees wide and your heels touching the soles of your feet touching any amount in toward your groin and hips or away is okay. It'll be a different sensation depending on where your hips are in relation, where your heels, where your feet are in relation to your hips, but coming just to the edge of sensation. Keeping a long spine first. And you know what? If you have any blocks or props, this would be another great opportunity for them. I kind of love to place a block between my feet and maybe stacking them extra high so that when I walk my torso forward, my head can rest gently on any props. And you know what? If you don't have props, if you are working without props today, that's okay. This sensation, more than enough. If you do, try it out. See what it's like for you. I'm going to keep my props today. Noticing the sensation along your hips and thighs and hamstrings. Settling in. If there are any little spots of tension, invite your breath to dissolve that tension. If you notice that you want to move and shift and you're not in pain, if you're in pain, back off as always. But if you just find that you're kind of fidgety, ask your body if you can welcome in a little stillness. And we'll be here for the next 5 or 6 rounds of breath. Just noticing your breath, the rise and fall of your chest. And when you're ready, slowly begin to walk your hands back underneath your shoulders, long through the spine, removing any props now. And what would feel good in your body? I'm sort of sensing that I would like to windshield wiper my knees right and left to release anything else that I was holding on to. And we'll set up for half butterfly. So bringing your left foot in to your right inner thigh and rotating your torso so that it's oriented over your right extended foot, and we'll just walk our hands out over. And once again, if there are any props that might feel good, I don't know that I'm going to use props today, but if there are any that might feel good to you so that you can rest your head. Yeah, I don't know if this is doing it for me today. Well, maybe. A little bit of edginess or sensation along the hamstring. But if there's any pain, back off. And if it's just sensation, just notice it. Unclench your jaw, release your tongue from the roof of your mouth, relax your shoulders. And just breathe. Four more breaths in stillness. And begin to walk your torso back upright. Removing any props and finding anything that might feel good. I think I'm going to explore a stargazer here. So pressing your left hand into the mat and reaching your right hand behind you. Come up onto your left knee and right foot, finding some length along the right side body. And coming back down. Rolling through that right ankle and setting up for butterfly on the other side. Once again, right foot comes into the left inseam, the inseam of your left thigh. Finding any props, if you'd like those today. Rotating your torso and shoulders so that it orients over your left foot, long in your spine before you fold forward. Settling into stillness. Releasing any little sticky bits of tension that you're holding on to. Just being. 4 or 5 unhurried breaths here. Dissolving any last bits of tension. And slowly walking your torso back upright. Once again, removing any props that you may have used. I'm going to explore stargazer on the other side. So planting your right hand behind your right hip, coming up onto your right knee and shin. Oh, maybe circling that left arm a few times. Opening up through the front side body. Releasing your hips back down to the floor. And we'll make our way into our final resting pose, Shavasana. Finding any props that might feel good to you. Slowly rolling onto our backs. Oh, fully releasing our spine down to the floor. Any last little bits of movement that might feel good to you. Maybe it's rocking back and forth. This is nice to release the low back. Feels good to me. Rolling through your hair, ankles and wrists, but arriving into stillness. I'm gonna set up with a block on my torso. That's my favorite. I feel that it really grounds me. And I always need a little bit more of that. Allowing your arms to rest open and your eyes to close down softly. Arriving in our final resting pose. Feel free to stay here as long as you like. And if you're ready to move, begin to invite some gentle, small movements through your wrists and ankles. Maybe reaching your arms overhead, finding a long, good morning stretch. Oh, this one always feels so good to me. Rolling over onto either side, finding fetal pose. And then when you're ready, press back up, finding an upright seat, and closing down the eyes once more. The hips grounded, long in the spine. Exploring your inner landscape once more. Hands come to heart center, bowing your mind to the well of your heart. In gratitude for this practice, for our ability to move our bodies and come home to ourselves over and over again, we say thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Have a wonderful day.